So one of the things I wanted to talk about was how to choose the right caterer. And one of the things I think is so incredibly important is setting up a face-to-face meeting. This day and age, brides have access to so much information, so many social media outlets such as Instagram and Facebook, to where they know exactly who we are by the time they set up an appointment with us. But the problem is we don't know anything about them. And a meeting is just a really great way to learn about each other, to talk, and just to understand, what your vision is, who you are, who your groom is, and, what your expectations and, everything that you just dream of for your wedding. And we can't really get those details just through email or just by submitting a proposal to you right away. It really just takes conversation, and I think that's so incredibly important.
Plated dinners are not always the most expensive option, whether you're talking about your wedding reception or your rehearsal dinner. There are all sorts of ways to, work within a budget, and plated dinners just anymore aren't always the most expensive option. With a plated dinner, at least for our company, we can control the portions and control what's going out versus a buffet and family style, which we of course do. But with that, you have to account for a lot of waste, and we don't like to waste anything. But also, things need to stay full and plentiful, and Uncle Randy might get more than his share of the mac and cheese, so we can control portions a little bit better with a plated dinner and other styles of service.
I would recommend that you order your cake at least 6 months to a year in advance to allow plenty of time if you have a specific date that you want. A lot of custom designers will book out pretty far, so if you're partial about that designer, you may need to go ahead and contact them first. Even if you don't know your design, there's lots of things that can be discussed in deciding on whether you want to use that designer or not to secure the date.
The difference between full-service catering and a more standard kind of catering, not that anything's wrong with that, is full-service catering like we do at Shindigs. We have all our own staff. We have either our own equipment or we have access to that equipment, rentals, China glass silver, things of that nature. And we're well connected with other vendors. If we don't have it, we can get it.
It's really important to be honest with what your budget is. If it's not the biggest budget in the world, it's okay. We don't care. But it helps us to be able to give you the best options. We can help you better if we know what you're anticipating to spend or what your budget range is. That's just really important. So just be honest about that conversation. We're not trying to take advantage of you. We're not going to totally turn down your business. We want to help you. But for us to be able to do that, we need to know what you're thinking, what your budget range is, and we can give you the best options possible if we kind of know up front what you're expecting.
If you have a dream cake design, but you're on a budget and afraid you can't have that design that you want, there are options. And what I would advise, you could have a smaller cake made in that design, and then order sheet cakes that are cut and plated in the kitchen and brought out after you've cut your original wedding cake for your pictures.
Well, there are always things we can do to work within a budget. A reasonable budget, we can always do things to work with that. Our signature style of service at Shindigs is doing several rounds of past hors d'oeuvres followed by several rounds of past small plates. And really that, it's not only our signature style, but it's really our most budget-friendly style, depending on your selections, just because we don't have the rentals that are incurred on plated dinners, on family-style meals and things of that nature. It also allows us to have the proper amount of staff, take care of your guests as good as we can. And, we also do buffets, we also do stations and things of that nature. But, the pass-around food has really become our signature because it's just a lot of fun. It's light. We take the food wherever the guests are, if they're on the dance floor, if they are standing at a high-top table, if they're, hope not, but waiting in line at the bar, we take it to them there. And so that's just a great way to mix and mingle, be budget friendly. So there are lots of options that we can work with, given your budget.
To determine what size of cake you need based on the amount of guests, I have a formula. You basically subtract 20% off of your guest count. You'll have a percentage of guests that don't eat cake, but then you have a percentage of guests that eat the bride's cake and the groom's cake and try to get more. So a good guideline is to subtract 20% off of your guest count to come up with the number you need for a wedding cake.
Especially for plated meals and for rehearsal dinners where you might anticipate a lot of toast being given and things like that during dessert, after dinner. Think about doing, instead of a plated dessert, think about doing platters to each table of mini desserts, more family style. It's a little bit more interaction, it's a little less formal, and it's one platter going to a table instead of 10 people getting plates at a table. It takes a little bit less time if you're anticipating a lot of toasting. It kind of helps the night roll along. It's also more friendly on your budget a lot of times too.
And when you're talking with your caterer about your budget, if you, like I said, don't have the biggest budget, it's okay, but also be willing to be flexible. You might not be able to get beef tenderloin and shrimp and crab for the budget that you have, but it doesn't mean that you can't get great options. You just might have to be a little bit flexible with what, expectations were originally in your head, and let us kind of work with you and give you the best, options that we can.
These days you don't have to have a white cake. Brides ask me that all the time. Times have changed. You can have any flavor you like. If your favorite cake flavor is Italian cream or strawberry. One way, though, to satisfy your guests that I recommend, and it's not uncommon to do this, is to have 2 different flavors within your tier of cake. With mine, there are 2 2-inch layers of cake within a tier. You could do a white traditional wedding cake and say if strawberry is your favorite cake, add strawberry. When it's cut and plated, you have both flavors on the plate with the icing in between, and your guests are pleasantly surprised that they get 2 different flavors, and that's a nice treat too.
Everybody likes custom things, and things don't have to be, cookie cutter or anything, especially with online menus and brochures, things like that. We really love to make it personal for you and your family and add that added touch.
If you bring me pictures that you've downloaded, a lot of brides have their folders on Pinterest and may have several different cakes. But if you bring me one particular picture and ask me to duplicate that cake, custom cake designers, we are sugar artists and no 2 artists are alike, but I would try to get the cake as best I could to that design, the best of my ability. So just keep in mind that all artists are different, so it could have a little bit of a different look, but most of the time it can be duplicated pretty similar to what you bring in. A lot of times too, brides will bring in a cake that is covered in fondant and you're wanting a cake covered in buttercream. So don't think that that design can't be duplicated just because it's fondant and you're wanting a different medium. There are different alternatives or ways to revise that design to get what you want.
Sometimes brides are tempted to use restaurants or family friends to cater, but what's really important is to use an experienced wedding caterer. There's so much differences here, so many differences here. For example, versus a restaurant, caterers can really give you a bigger variety. Caterers can do sushi, they can do German food, they can do Italian food. We can do anything, whereas, with restaurants, you're definitely more limited. On the other end of the spectrum, using family members and, friends or people that really just aren't licensed professional caterers, you can run into a lot of problems there. And it's just really important that you can use somebody that's trusted, that has great reviews on social media, and someone that's just respected in their field, and that you're not going to be let down or have a bad experience that can't be reconciled.
When you're looking at your flowers for your cake, there's sugar paste flowers that are made by hand or fresh flowers. And sometimes brides ask, well, what's the difference? Is one prettier than the other? It really depends on the design and style of cake you're going with, because both are beautiful. Sugar paste flowers are handmade out of a sugar dough. They turn hard like porcelain. They shatter like porcelain, but it is something that you could keep in your curio cabinet or keep indefinitely. Fresh flowers are beautiful, and I would recommend recommend that you talk to your florist, make sure that it is a food-safe flour, and then get with your cake designer.
One thing some brides tend to forget is feeding their band and feeding their vendors. Everybody's got to eat, and it's always nice to take care of your band. Usually it'll be in their contract, and your photographer, your videographer, your wedding planners, and everybody else who's, who's on your team that day. Don't forget your vendors.
So brides will ask, can I have my wedding cake outside? We've done a lot of outdoor weddings. I do want to warn you though, if you're using buttercream, it's not meant to be outside for a long period of time. And I do have to say, your bugs will come free. So it's beyond our control if bugs get on your cake or gnats or flies. My suggestion would be, and what we do, is try to set that cake up as late as possible. I've been known to set up a wedding cake during a ceremony for an outdoor wedding, depending on the humidity and the climate, the rain. So it is possible, but you do have other factors and challenges involved. So you'll just want to be sure and go over all those with your wedding cake designer and be assured that it could be set up during your ceremony.
Also, don't forget the late night food. People have been dancing, drinking a good bit sometimes, and it's always great to have a late night snack for people, whether it's a slider and truffle fries or some pork belly steam buns. Always good to have a little something in their belly before they're heading home.
Something that would be good for you to think about as a bride is the location of your wedding cakes, your bride and a groom's cake. Sometimes people don't give that a lot of thought, but you want to think about the background. When you have your photographs made, you don't want to see a fire alarm on the wall in the background, or an ugly ornament or to that sort, or a window that might bring in some light that would affect your pictures. Also, so think about the surroundings in the background. Also, you look at the cake. You're spending a lot of money, so I would look at it as a focal point and a centerpiece. I would also recommend that it's spotlighted. So if you are working with a wedding planner, you could get with them on finding a lighting company to pin spot your wedding cake to really highlight that beautiful creation that's the cake of your dreams.
I'm with you through the planning process and most likely at your event, and our staff is there the whole time. So our servers are there, our bartenders are there if needed. And, it's not just we're dropping off some food, which we can do, but that's not what we really do for weddings. We like to be on site, hands-on, and help you in any way possible. It's our job to be the best stewards of your money. It's also our job to, treat you like family.
Some people ask, brides and mothers will ask if, do I need a groom's cake? Well, a lot of times that's the most fun and the time that a groom thinks he has a part in the wedding, if he gets to design his cake. Groom's cakes are designed after their interest or their hobbies. So that's something to think about that you might want to highlight. You could surprise him. I have a lot of brides that will surprise their groom and have a particular themed cake, or even just his favorite flavored cake, whether it be an Oreo cookie cake or across the top stadium cake or 4-foot blue marlin fish cake. So it's a lot of fun to think of the groom and think about his interests and have something that's specific to him and his likes for his cake. Now, another note, even though I'm a cake designer, if your groom loves donuts or cheesecake or pies, I recommend having some sort of a dessert table for him. Whatever his favorite dessert is goes. Whatever makes him happy.
Don't forget, after your wedding, be sure to leave online reviews for your vendors. They want to hear back from you, and remember how helpful it was when you were planning your wedding. You were online, you were all over social media looking at what people were saying, real brides, real testimonials. So remember to leave those reviews afterward.
A lot of times I'm asked, should I keep the top tier of my wedding cake? Well, I've been married, 34 years? We kept our top tier, and I've been married this long, so I guess there is a little bit of good luck in that old myth. So it's always been known to keep your top tier for your first anniversary and take it out as a couple and eat it for good luck. I recommend that. I do give you your top tier as a free gift and provide a box for that. So, one of the biggest things that I would like to share with you is that cake will be edible a year later if you wrap it really tight in saran wrap and foil. And the key is to take it out and let it thaw out completely while it's all sealed and completely wrapped. It keeps the moisture in, and once you unwrap it, then it's edible. And a lot of times I'm told it's as good as the day they got married.